I see all the time people do not utilize an email chain workflow or an email funnel where you can very easily set up automatic emails for a 5-day period checking up on a customer who is interested in an estimate. Like there's very useful things that people could be maximizing within what they're currently using and what you're comfortable maybe having someone do for you. You being the kind of CEO role, does it make sense for you specifically to be doing that?
Is that a question?
Yeah, that's this question.
Probably not, because all right. So today we have Jadyn, and Jadyn, I actually met for the first time at Blue Collar Summit last year. You're actually the person that was handing out some of the awards that you would win on kind of those cards. But Jadyn, I guess tell us a little bit about maybe yourself. I know that you previously worked at Gust Lawn Care. I'm really interested to hear what you did there, and then maybe we can talk about the transition into entrepreneurship, and now you own your own business. So I guess maybe catch myself up and everybody that is watching at a later point of what you maybe did at Gust Lawn Care, how long you were there, what you were responsible for, and then kind of where you're at today.
Yeah, definitely. So working with Gust Lawn Care, I was there for quite a few years. I kind of worked my way up through the ranks and eventually was doing a lot of the operations for the call center side of things, making sure all the processes were working for the franchisees and ultimately in charge of the success of our support for the franchisees. And Mike, he's got facets in every part of the online space. So I would help out with those other facets as well. I was set to transition to his software P4P, but instead ended up making my own business, helping business owners. The transition was honestly really natural. I loved being able to work with so many business owners, and it was honestly really special seeing how much time and passion and dedication these owners were putting into their businesses. And something that I was seeing very commonly said among these business owners was how stressful and time consuming and overwhelming it could be. And part of me was like, this can't be it. This can't be the solution for business owners. And it kind of hit me at one point because I had worked for Michael's, the craft store. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a huge chain store. It's globally available. But I was able to go from store to store working for them, and everything flowed. We knew exactly what was going to happen. There was no question of what's going to happen next in my shift. It was very clear. And I wanted to bring that kind of predictability to these business owners that, are feeling this overwhelm and this lack of time in their everyday. And it really boiled down to Michael's was able to put together these systems and procedures and workflows that brought that level of predictability to all of their businesses to where it was such an easy flow. You're never going to see the CEO of Michael's checking out items at the cashier because they're able to put together that procedure so well. And so really, I wanted to bring that level of predictability to these business owners and do that through creating simple, easy to follow systems and procedures and processes that will ultimately give them back that time, their most valuable commodity, and also prepare them for growth. And so it was a very natural transition to being able to do that for business owners.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. So to me, it sounds like you're coming from a place of wanting to help people, right? Like you saw a recurring problem in all of these business owners. Cause I looked at your website too, from even just the Augusta franchise locations, there was over 150 locations there. Right. And so you're helping build these systems and these processes. So you're deep into the weeds, especially on the command center side. There's lots going on. Right. And so you see this problem that's a recurring thing. And I think that's just incredible of you. And I think it shows the type of person that you are to really branch out, start a business to help and fill that need. So have you always wanted to do something for yourself, or did that stem from just simply working with, Augusta Lawn Care Command Center and branching out once you saw that need?
I can't say that I specifically always had owning my own business as a end goal point, but helping people and being able to bring joy, happiness, relief to people's everyday, that's definitely a goal of mine. However, that's achieved, and when I had the opportunity to pursue this and be able to achieve that on such a more personal scale with business owners, I I couldn't pass it up. It was perfect.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I wanted to backtrack a little bit, Jadyn. So working at Augusta Lawn Care with Mike, obviously we all know Mike. He's a go-getter. What is that type of environment like? I'm just curious, like working there. I just feel like there's a lot of A players in the building, a lot of A players. Like, I guess share with me that experience of working in that type of environment.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. It's very go, 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 which honestly was perfect for me to be able to have that kind of experience because I feel like Mike exhibits a lot of those personality traits of, my target customer where they are moving so fast. They're just like, boom, throwing solution at a problem, boom, throwing solution at a problem. And it's not necessarily going to be a long lasting solution that can uphold the test of growth or the test of strain. Like if it's a really busy season and it needs to be a really solid system in place for it to withstand that much coming in. Yes, it is very go, go, go at Augusta. And it was perfect for me to be able to grow my skills because I could take all of these little thrown at the wall solutions and I really was able to put together a well-oiled machine that could take on the workload and the amount of stress that would happen in the spring because 150 locations, that's a lot of phone calls. It's a
Yeah.
lot of emails. There's a lot going on. And we were really able to put together these systems that could withstand that kind of growth.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible too. Cause like I think a lot of businesses struggle with like when to implement a system or like how to implement a system. I mean, there's even systems like in our business that we've modeled a lot of off of what Mike's doing and like just the information he shares. But even with just kind of like the yellow slip system, like there's times where like I guess like is the system supposed to be bulletproof where it's like the goal is to really remove the owner, right? And so like sometimes I'll set my team up with certain parameters and systems, but I find that sometimes they still have questions and they still have, hey, how do you want me to handle this? And like part of me is like, hey, let's just follow the script. But then the other part of me is like, well, this scenario happened. So we may not have to like process a yellow slip, even though the customer did complain about this. So like, I guess like what have you found to be the most effective? Like, is that normal to like have those kind of gray areas within the systems, or is it just clear cut black and white?
That is such a great question. And I want to start by clarifying what is a system. And a system can be as simple as, this is how we clock in, and this is the first thing that we start in the day. It's literally just a process of what is the step by step to achieve a goal. And when you start thinking of a system as this great big chunk of something that you have to tackle that's supposed to work perfectly, that's when you start getting into that gray area where you're like, oh gosh, well, not everything is perfectly happening within the system. There must be something wrong. That's not necessarily the case. Like with a system, you're wanting to put together the step by step. You want it to be as foolproof as possible, but the real solution to a system is what the outcome is. And so to have a successful system, you want the deliverables and you want the goals and the outcome. So in the example of that yellow slip that you just brought up, the outcome is we really want to have a happy client. So if we're able to give that goal of we want a happy client by the end of this little interaction that might be a yellow slip, we want the person that's taking the call to be able to diagnose, okay, was this something that is our fault? Is it something that the team needs to go back and fix? Is it something that I can fix over the phone? Was it like a miscommunication on what was expected from their estimate? Those are all things that we want to take into consideration and give them the power to be able to put it through to the next step. So let's say within this yellow slip system, we're like, okay, yeah, the next step is we definitely want to send the crew out. We want to have that next step of how do they get the crew out there? Who are they communicating with? How are we reaching that final goal of the customer's happy? And if we have the common goal in mind, you're going to see a lot of those gray area items disappear.
Okay. That makes wonderful sense in my brain because I think I was too focused on the process of like, do this, then this, if this happens, versus like, let's get everybody on the same page of what the goal is. And then from there, empower them to make that decision. Like, hey, if the goal is this, then, we may need to do this. Right. So that's really powerful. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
really good. That's really good. All right. So let me take a look at my questions here because I had some really good stuff that I was wanting to ask you. So as far as like with what you do now, right? Do you do more of like the consulting side of things? in your business now? So it's called Bird's Eye DBM, right? That's the businesses you start. And I guess talk to me precisely like how you help businesses scale. Is it really just like the consulting side of the systems, or is it like, do you help them with the implementation side of things? Like, I guess what all do you help businesses with?
Yeah, so Bird's Eye DBM, DBM stands for Digital Business Management. Within the digital space, there's a lot of components like softwares, setting up systems, team management that is able to be done in a digital aspect. And that's what I'm able to really help you with. My main goal with this business is to reach the owners that need to get their time back. They need to be able to put systems or optimize their current systems in order to get them back into doing what they're passionate about in their business. And that can look different for a lot of people. It could just be consulting. It could be putting together a plan for them after reviewing their current systems of like, you need to do these items in order to achieve that goal. Or if they do need a little bit more in-depth help, I can also do that, which I think gives me a unique value over a traditional coach where they're only giving you that instructional piece. I love getting into the minutia of businesses. I currently have a client right now where I'm consolidating a lot of their softwares into one and refining their process that everybody is clear and succinct at where a client's status is at any given point in their process. That kind of service is so valuable for business owners, and it can look so different for every single industry. In terms of like how that could look like for a lawn care business owner, I did actually put together a couple packages already where I could do an audit and give that breakdown of what I recommend you do in order to achieve that goal that you have, whether it be growth or getting more time or getting out of admin. There's all kinds of goals that different people could have. There's also getting everything cleaned up together. I'm in the works with you, getting your systems refined into an easy step-by-step process in order to maybe remove you from admin so that you're not having to double check work. That's another example. Or getting you into a CRM. I had no idea that so many business owners, having worked with Augusta where you're already in a CRM by the time you are even coming to training. A lot of people don't get into a CRM at all, and they're working out of their contacts and their email and out of like Google Calendar. It's a really powerful thing to be able to automate and get processes in place, because a happy client is going to mean more clients and more success for you. So whatever I can do to help you achieve that goal is really what I would want to be able to help you with.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So Jadyn, if I came to you today, so we're doing like just shy of 1 million, right? We're doing probably finish off like 900,000 this year. If I came to you and I'm like, okay, we want to take this to 1.5, like in the next 12 to 24 months, right?
Mhm.
And we have our softwares that we're using. Like, what would that process look like is it like a week process where you kind of get into the nitty and gritty of things? Is it like a 30-day process? Is it a one-time kind of sit down? Like, how would that look for someone like me who comes to you and is like, all right, Jadyn, we need to fix our systems. We already have like P4P set up. I mean, we have yellow slip systems. Like, we do a lot of what Augusta does already, kind of models, but
Mhm.
I feel like there's still holes for sure in
Yeah.
our bucket of like, I mean, shoot, off the top of my head, I'd say our onboarding and well, our hiring system's somewhat dialed in, but our onboarding system is so manual entry. Like, I'm manually sending the offer letter. I'm
Mm.
manually setting up a pre-employment drug test. I'm like manually texting the person, like, you know what I mean? And so like, to me, that would be extremely valuable because in the springtime, that thing right there. So like, I guess my question is like, because I'm throwing a lot at you here. Let me try to
No,
sum
yeah,
this
throw
up.
it all.
Is it like I come to you with like one specific problem, or I guess like you said, it may vary, but like, yeah, I'm just curious kind of like what that would look like, for someone who's
Yeah.
trying to take it to the next level.
Yeah, well, let's use you as an example. You come to me and you're like, how can I streamline all of these processes that I have so I can reach this goal of 1.5? Well, you already gave me a pretty low hanging fruit. It's taking a lot of your time to onboard someone. Let's automate that how we can. Is there some steps we can consolidate? Are you, getting back this signed hiring documents? And then you have to send those to somebody else, and then they have to enter it into your payroll software, and then that has to come back to you, and then you have to store it somewhere. How can we maximize your efficiency there so you can have more time? And that could look like, maybe like what payroll software do you use?
So we use QuickBooks, and then I just basically send them a DocuSign with like 15 pages. All right. Like our handbook, pre-employment drug test agreement, like all that stuff, background check, things like that.
Yeah. So potentially a way you could streamline that process is QuickBooks does have a fill out portion of that where you can have the employee fill that out. You essentially check a box that you want them to enter the information on their end. That could save you a step. You could also set up a Zap where if you get back the information for the drug test, you can automatically I don't know how that whole process works, if you have to reach out to someone for the drug test and then they go and set up their own appointment, or if you reach out to them and then they reach out to the employee. But I'm sure there's some sort of efficiency we can link together there. A lot of it too is dependent on what you're willing to automate and what you're comfortable automating and what you're comfortable maybe having someone do for you. So you being the kind of CEO role, does it make sense for you specifically to be doing that?
Or is that a question?
Yeah, that's his question.
Probably not, because last time I talked to Mike, he's like, "You need to get out of admin," and I'm like, I know, I need to get out of admin, but like we have an office manager right now, and she's great, but I mean, with us pushing almost 1 million, it's like it's a lot for her, especially in the spring rush. So I still do some stuff like onboarding, entering them all into Copilot and P4P and QuickBooks, and like I don't know, and I do all that stuff manually. I mean, I don't know if there's a way we could set up a Zap where that would like just fill out all that information. That would be amazing.
That
But
would be
then,
nice.
yeah, so I do a lot of that stuff kind of manually right now. But yeah, ultimately, I do need to start to transition out of the admin side of things as more of, like you said, the CEO role.
Yeah, and if your office manager's, at that level right now where she's probably at capacity, it might be time to start looking at maybe an assistant or someone that can help her and take a load off of what she's doing. Because if she's being pulled out of the high level things that you're really needing her to be in charge of to be able to do some of the things that come in during spring rush, that's also an inefficiency. If you're paying your top line person who you're, if it's an office manager, I'm assuming you're paying her well. If you're having that person do a lot of these smaller, minute tasks, you're paying a lot more for those tasks to be done. And it might be a better avenue for you to explore an assistant for that person and get them to do the more high level things that they're capable of, and have that lower level person, not necessarily lower level, but assistant person, to take on those more minute tasks.
Yeah. You're right. A lot of like the reactive stuff, right? Like when
Right.
the phone rings or something like that. Yeah, you make a good point. Yeah. I need to, and that's kind of what we're going to be looking at like this off season is like, hey, do we need to get an assistant in here? And then I'll be able to hopefully hand off a lot of that kind of higher level stuff,
Right. But how are you handing it off? You need to make sure that
Mm.
you're putting together a lot of the information that might be living in your head into some sort of SOP that she can follow.
Yeah.
Because if you just, toss this to somebody, I guarantee you it's not going to be done how you want it.
That's the other thing, right? Like, I mean, we can shoot a Loom video. I can shoot or put together a checklist, right? A template, and then at the
Mhm.
bottom, all the important things to double check, right? I can do all that. I think for me, what I'm looking for the magic bullet, which there probably isn't one, but maybe Jadyn knows, so she can fill us in here. Is there like a great centralized location where we could put those documents, maybe not so much all of the videos, because that might be a lot of storage, but like a centralized place that has like the GM stuff, the office stuff, and everybody has access to it? I mean, is it as simple as just using a Google Drive, or is there something better out there that we can kind of consolidate everything and make it easy?
It really just depends on what is going to work best for your business. Because I do love Google Drive. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Google Workspace stan. But if you are already in 6 other softwares, is it going to make sense to add another step to go to another place to look up a process?
Mm.
You have to keep that in mind, because if they're having to do another 3 steps to get the answer for something, there's a really good chance that they're just going to skip that step. So
Yeah.
not only do you have to keep in mind where it is in relation to like what they're already doing, you need to set them up for success. If you can put it in a place where they can easily grab it and they don't have to go to a separate place, you're going to have so much more success with like the full steps being completed.
Yeah. Yeah. You make a really good point. And just off the top of my head, I know Copilot like added the wiki. So like part of me is like,
Yep.
using the wiki, I mean, again, is it as simple as just putting the links in there? And then, yes, it brings them to another page, but at least it's there, like where they're at all day. You know what I mean? From the office
Yeah.
manager standpoint.
Yeah. I love that idea. Yeah. Link to
Okay.
it. But the other thing you have to keep in mind too is if you are going to be linking to it, you need to make sure that the process isn't also being documented in a second place. This is a huge thing I see all the time where people will document part of a process in one spot and then have the full process in a second spot. If anything changes to either one, it's not going to be communicated 100% of the time to the other spot.
Yeah.
So my biggest recommendation is keep it in one central spot and link to that spot.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good. That's really good. Okay. So I have another question here. So a lot of the viewers here that I have are doing anywhere from like either a just getting started up to probably maybe I'd say majority of them fall into that like 300,000, maybe 4 or 500,000 mark annually. What do you see? Because I'm sure you work potentially, if not day to day now, but definitely with Augusta, like what do you see as like the biggest maybe bottleneck or problems with the systems that they are experiencing that hinder them from getting to that next level?
To some degree, I have to separate what Augusta is doing versus what I think somebody that's doing it on their own is doing, because Augusta does have a lot of support. And a lot of times I would consider myself almost like coach or maybe even like mom to a lot of these franchisees where, they just start out and I'm like poking them like, you didn't do your thing. You told me you would do this. You didn't do it. Where these other people, they don't really have that. I would say, for number one, hold yourself accountable, set some goals, and track, check in with your goals and make sure you're actually meeting what you're trying to achieve. Because a lot of the times I see people get lost in, the everyday. I'll give you an example of a location that had a goal. They had communicated this goal to us that they wanted to start doing more projects. They really wanted to start doing like retaining walls and paper patios. Like they had a goal to have half their schedule filled with that by the end of summer. And they were getting lost in the sauce of, I need to buy this equipment and I need to do all this research on these pavers. And I'm just, too scared to trust my crew to do this. Where, we need to be checking in with our goals. Like, okay, by this point, our goal is to have the team trained, because the next steps is actually execution. And by this point, I need to have baseline research done on, if I do get this is my next steps for that. So checking in with your goals during especially the busy season to make sure you're on track, I would say is really important. Maybe to add on is probably communication. Stop storing stuff in your brains. Write it down. If you talk to a client, make a note of it on their account. You are probably not going to remember that when you get back to the office and you're trying to invoice them. Just write it down.
Yeah, that's big. I have so much stuff in my brain sometimes. Like even when I started building the systems, I'm like, oh my goodness, like I need to put this on a checklist document. Even now, like when actually I'm getting better now because we've had not a lot of turnover, but in the beginning there was a ton of turnover, and like a team member would leave, and then in my brain I'm like, okay, I got to make sure that they still don't have a credit card. I got to make sure that I take them out of Copilot and the WhatsApp chat and all that stuff. And then sometimes I forget because I'm like taking a sales call and doing something else. So now I've got on my wall, now that I'm more of like now that I had a little bit more time to be organized, I have the checklist of like when a new team member comes on, add them to all of these softwares. When they leave, we need to remove them and do all that stuff,
Yeah,
So,
super important. Yeah.
yeah, I'm learning because
Great job. Honestly, kudos.
yeah, it's tough. You know what I mean? Like there's so many variables of a growing business, but I think it's really, really cool that you started your own. So I was really intrigued to have you on. Jadyn, what do you think? So you are really specializing in the digital software it sounds like side of things. What are like maybe the top, I mean, outside of maybe obviously QuickBooks, like we use P4P, and then, the CRM that somebody is using, and then maybe Google Drive too, like outside of those four, I'd say those are the big kind of softwares. What other types of or kinds of softwares that you have found to be maybe most beneficial for somebody that can help maybe get them organized or implement some kind of systems more than others? Do you have any that come to mind?
Yeah, just keeping the lens of a lawn care worker, because I do work with a lot of industries.
Smart.
Let's see, Zapier would be a good one. What is your communication platform? Once you start growing, I know it's really tempting to have every employee have their own email if on the admin side, which we could get into that more if you want, but I don't like that. I don't think we should have everyone have their own emails unless it's giving access to a centralized email or having a ticketing software that will give access. You'd probably want to have some sort of GPS tracking. I find that to be very helpful. And really, it's using the systems that you currently have to their fullest potential. Like, let me give you the instance of not using a CRM to its fullest potential is if you can clock into a job and track how long you're spending on this job and be able to look at that over amount of time and be able to tell we're spending more time than we had anticipated at this property. We need to raise this price. That is something that we could look at implementing for you. The other example is, sending emails. I see all the time people do not utilize an email chain workflow or an email funnel where you can very easily set up automatic emails for a 5-day period checking up on a customer who is interested in an estimate. Like, there's very useful things that people could be maximizing within what they're currently using. And I do want to clarify, I don't really know how to take care of a lawn. That's not my specialty. I'm not claiming that I would be able to, maximize your ability to do maintenance on all of the equipment. Nope. I will tell you, I've never held a trimmer. I don't know how to do that. But can I optimize what you're currently doing within your softwares? And can I recommend you be doing something differently in a different software that would suit your needs better in order to get you out of admin and get your time freed up? Absolutely.
Yeah, which is way more valuable than how to know how to cut a lawn. Because if we can take your brain and your systems and your processes and implement it, you'll be able to do way, way more lawns. You know what I mean? Than just
Right. Yes.
what they're managing. I wanted to kind of backtrack because it kind of sparked. Do you think, Jadyn, that it's beneficial to right now we are sending all of our emails basically manually, like with our weed treatments, we send a 24, 48-hour notice. Hey, we're going to be there for your lawn. Are you like fully on board with like, hey, we need to have the schedule set 1 week prior because there's automatic emails going out letting people know that we're going to be there? Or I'm just afraid, like if we do automate it, people are going to forget to set the schedule, and then people are going to be notified like, yeah, we'll be there on Monday. And it's like, no, we're not. There's way too many. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Right.
What's your experience like with that?
Okay, let me answer your question with a clarifying question. What do you mean by set the schedule? Do you not have them automatically reoccurring on the schedule already, or?
We do for the mow. Like we don't text our mows, but this would be more so for like the weed control. But the thing is which I'm going to use Copilot right now for an example because we don't have a waiting list. If there was a waiting list, I would definitely implement this because I'm going to pull those down and give the exact budget hours. But right now, there's not that. And so there may be a lot of jobs one day where I have to move half of them a week back or pull up, you know what I mean? Yeah, sometimes I'll do it maybe a day or two prior. I guess maybe when we get the waiting list, this would totally make more sense and I would probably be more on board with it. But yeah, so sometimes we're kind of moving things,
Yeah,
a few days prior.
which makes sense. You're working outside. Weather's a huge factor. Things are never going to be exactly the same every week. What I would say is, do you at least have it set as a template where you don't have to rewrite the email every time?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you have the template and you could potentially, I can't remember, it's been a hot minute since I've emailed out of Copilot. I do remember in Service Autopilot, you're able to checkbox the people on the schedule for a day and be able to bulk send an email that way. If that's something that's available on Copilot, I can't remember if it is or not, that could potentially save you some time. But in terms of like making sure that the schedule is set for the treatments when it's very up in the air, I don't know if I would really recommend that, because that could cause more problems than it is actually saving you time.
Yeah. And so like the other thing too that I want to ask you, Jadyn, because like you are the expert, right? When it comes to optimizing and efficiency, like where does that line get drawn in the sand of like, hey, let's use this scenario, for example. Finally, we get the waiting list on Copilot. When we pull them down, as long as it's on there, 2 days prior, they'll get automatic emails that says we'll be there for that service. But like you said, maybe it rains, maybe the person forgot to put the schedule together. At what point, where's the trade-off of like, hey, we need to implement this system, but there is room for error, like at marginally, whether that be like 5%, 10%, what is like for you that you would, and maybe it's whatever the comfortability-ness of the business owner is, and that can fluctuate, but like, is there a range of like, hey, as long as it's like 20% or like under maybe 15% correct, most of the time, 85+% of the time, we're going to save our time and then we'll just fix the problems later. Like, where's that balance,
See, this is a perfect example of me being able to complement a CEO thought process so well, is because I want to pull in so many more factors into that decision. What is our goal? Our ultimate goal is client satisfaction. Is having these automated emails going out 2 days in advance, is that bringing us more client satisfaction, or is that going to, if that email is missed, is it going to be detrimental to us? And then I want to bring into the factor, well, why is it being missed? Is there something that we could improve in our process with whoever's supposed to be sending that it's more consistent and get that onto a more reliable basis? If like, what's the status on that? Is that possible? Why isn't it possible? Is it going to be possible down the line? Maybe we need to put a pin in it and revisit it in a couple months and see if at that point, once we have, I'm not sure what a circumstance could be where it's not working. Maybe it's like not having set hours or something where somebody's not coming in at a specific time to be able to do that. Maybe when they do have a set schedule and they're able to consistently do that every Monday, they're setting up the schedule for the next week. We revisit, okay, our goal, client satisfaction, we want to be communicative with them. Well, okay, it's a great time. Let's do it. We can get it, into this person's schedule to make sure it's consistently done. What is our fail safe? What happens if we don't do that? Or what if the schedule changes? What if it rains? Then we need to put in our fail safe. And is our fail safe actually reaching our goal? And is our fail-safe actually helping the person that is in charge of making this happen? So in the example of, getting the treatments done, our fail-safe, like we have to move the service, let people know. just communicate with your clients. Hey, we told you it's going to be this day. It's raining. We're going to be doing it on Wednesday. Just keep in touch with your clients. And I'll tell you, I've had so many people really, really appreciative of the amount of communication that you can bring to the table for these clients, especially with things like treatments, when that could affect their kids, their dogs. You need to make sure that the gate's unlocked. There's so many factors that are really important with a treatment that extra level of communication is really appreciated.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, just like the way that your brain works and like goes through those layers of like, well, what are we optimizing for? What do we want? Like, what is the goal? What if this happens? Like, I think that's very, very powerful. Like you have a skill set for sure. Out of curiosity, let's say there's a business owner here that is listening to this and is like, oh my goodness, I know exactly what my problem is in the business. Are they able to come to you and just tell you exactly what their problem is, and then you can dissect that and
Yeah.
just do it like by category, I guess, of like of problems, if that kind of
Yeah.
makes sense? Okay,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, because I mean, just your mindset and approach on that is extremely powerful. Like even just the
Yeah.
way that you dissected that, you could rewind this, but you went through like 12 to 15 different questions on like all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's impressive for sure.
Yeah.
So
And honestly, I recommend to anyone that's, not sure of whether or not their process or their system is good, literally get a piece of paper and a pen and start just writing out a circle. And this, we have an arrow that goes to another section. We have another arrow that goes to this section, and just look at it. And if it looks crazy, you could probably simplify that.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Simplification scales, right?
Oh yeah.
Simplification scales. So awesome, awesome. Well, Jadyn, so I'm not sure if you're big into like education. Do you read a lot of books or listen to podcasts or watch people on YouTube?
Yeah, totally.
Do you have any recommendations or like what are you like in your business, just out of curiosity, because my channel is all about just growing and scaling. Maybe what are some challenges in your business that you're experiencing that you're maybe trying to kind of get to that next level? And then additionally to that, what type of content are you consuming that you have found to be very valuable that hopefully anybody that wants to listen to audiobooks can gain from?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Something that I have found challenging in my own business is probably the marketing side. It's, a whole beast I've never really touched before. And, having to completely bring that on has been really interesting and fun. Don't know if I have a specific book that I'd recommend, but a really good avenue to check out if you've ever heard of SCORE. It's a nonprofit organization that does free workshops, and I love attending those. You're in like a webinar style where you can chat with other people, and I like to record them and I'll listen back to them quite frequently. I wish I had a book to recommend, but if you have a book about marketing, please let me know. Otherwise, if you're looking for a good book that I'd recommend in terms of systems, Atomic Habits, I think would be massively helpful for people, especially with staying on top of your goals and making sure that you're executing what your plan to execute for that week is.
Yeah, phenomenal book. I
Yeah,
listened to Atomic Habits. It's so good. It's so good.
so good.
Just out of curiosity, for the marketing side, are you like referring to more of kind of like the kind of like paid advertisement? See, your business is a little different than the standard home service lawn care.
Yeah,
I
which if
think
it was, I know a little bit about that,
yeah,
but
you would crush it, which you're gonna crush this business anyway, just because I know you and Zach and your guys' personalities and him in your corner rooting you on. I mean, you guys are gonna
oh
crush
yeah,
it.
dream team.
Um, I think off the top of my head, honestly, I think just doing stuff like this, bringing value
Yeah,
to people, linking up with other maybe content creators and just bringing true genuine like value to people and building trust. I think that might be the best alternative, right? Like
yeah.
I think that would be really cool. Honestly, maybe starting a YouTube channel and
Oh gosh, really
maybe
pushing my
maybe clicking that record button. I know Zach's back there with the camera all the time, but you'll be the
True.
one that's on the camera, right? But I mean, even with stuff that I do, like I do a lot of coaching calls and stuff with business owners, and you'd be amazed at like how many people find value in that. And it doesn't even need to be like the whole call. It could just be snippets, or maybe some clients of yours are like, "Hey, I don't want to be on YouTube or anything like that," but that might bring you value too, and
Yeah,
ultimately to optimize what you want, which it sounds like to help more people. That's why I do my YouTube channel. Believe it or not, I go backwards every single month with like how much we spend in the video editor and all that stuff. Like it does not make what I pay him, and that's okay. I just want to reach more people, and I'm still trying to figure out like what the long-term game is, because
yeah,
ultimately I wanted to franchise our business, and I was like, well, maybe we'll use the YouTube channel to like do that. But after talk with Mike, I'm like, nah, we'll just own corporately owned locations. And I'm like, but I still want to do YouTube. I still want to help people that watch this stuff. And I think that shows a lot of who you are, of like branching off and wanting to start a business too. So to help
yeah,
people. So
yeah, definitely.
yeah. But Jadyn, I really, really appreciate you jumping on. For anybody that's watching that might be interested or wanting to learn more about you and the services, and maybe even you to help them in their business, or the bottleneck, the thing that they're challenged with and struggling with to get them to that next level, how can they reach you?
Yeah, please, either connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can find more information on my website, birdseyeDBM.com/Will Kelly. I also wanted to mention I made a little freebie for anybody that would like a pricing tool to figure out if raising prices is the right fit for you this coming spring. So feel free to check that out on my website too.
Awesome. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. And then on LinkedIn, is it Jadyn? is it Dephi, or is it actually the business name on LinkedIn?
There's both. I'm on there personally and my business is on there. So reach out to me either way. It both comes to me.
Awesome. Awesome. For anybody that is watching that is struggling, I'm telling you, this is a wizard right here of automations. I can literally, like, you've even helped me out today, like in our business and everything.
Oh,
So
good.
I really appreciate it, Jadyn. And yeah, definitely go reach out to her. She can definitely help for sure. So
Thanks so much, Will.
absolutely. Thanks for jumping on, Jadyn. Yeah. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Sorry my voice is a little off, but I wanted to wrap this up and let you know that I'm going to put a link in the description below for you to book a free discovery call with Jadyn herself. Take advantage of this, book the call, build better systems in your business. It will make your life way easier, less stress, and allow you to be more effective on the things that matter most in your business. Merry Christmas, everybody. Apologize about the voice, but just getting over a little bit of a cold or something.